Good morning. It's early this morning, but I'm getting an early start today. Got a lot to do today, and this morning I wanted to tell you about George Simmel, the canceled sociologist. That's right, Simmel was canceled in his time. Um, he was excluded from academic appointments. He was kept out of positions of power. He did things his own way. That's not why he was canceled. He was canceled because he was a Jew in Germany right before World War One. But so George Simmel, canceled, obviously a very respected sociological founder. He was in dialogue with many of the sociological founders, including Marion Weber, Max Weber's spouse, who actually composed most of his manuscripts. So he's very well respected. But I wanted to talk to you about George Simmel's economic theory, and I'm thinking about what it means in 2024 in YouTube exchanges. So let me set the stage here. Simmel is saying that basically every interaction is properly viewed as a kind of exchange. So he goes on to say, in human relations, however, interaction generally appears in forms which lend themselves to being viewed as exchange. The ordinary vicissitudes of daily life produce a continuous alternation of profit and loss, and ebbing and flowing of the contents of life. Exchange has the effect of rationalizing these vicissitudes through the conscious act of setting the one for the other. The same synthetic process of mind that from the mere juxtaposition of thing creates a with another and for another, the same ego which permeated by sense data, that data we collect in the environment, permeated by sense data informs them with its own unified character, has through the category of exchange seized that naturally given rhythm of our existence and organized its elements into a meaningful nexus. Exchange is at the heart of all that we do in our day-to-day interactions. Whenever I interact with you, I see it as an exchange. I'm giving my time, I'm giving my economic goods. If we're sharing food together, that feels like an exchange. As I'm going about the environment, I'm collecting this data and I'm sort of calculating. We all know the people who keep track of, like, who gave them what gifts and whatever, and what gifts do they owe other people at the next event or whatever. So that is exchange. But then I want to read what Simmel says here on the next page. In all these exchanges, the increase of value does not occur through the calculations of profit and loss. So value is not necessarily about profit and loss calculations. Either the contribution of each party stands beyond such a consideration, or else simply to be allowed to contribute is itself a gain. So being allowed a seat at the table, which Simmel was not allowed, right, is itself a gain. In which case we perceive the response of the other, despite our own offering, as an unearned gift. So we see that in status hierarchies, right? If Jordan Hall looks at you, oh, that's an unearned gift, just as an example. In contrast, economic exchange, whether it involves substances, labor, or labor power invested in substances, always entails the sacrifice of some good that has other potential uses, so like a physical item, even though the utilitarian gain may prevail in the final analysis. So I'm asking myself, so what does it mean in sort of the YouTube era when we talk about this? Because all of our social interactions on YouTube are mediated by this unseen actor that's getting financial gain. This YouTube, right? Okay, so YouTube itself is making money from our clicks, and I want to know if that's something that we think about. And then at the same time, as individuals, might be making some kind of profit in some menial sense from our interactions themselves. So we not only have the exchange of ideas, we also have the exchange of goods that we see, and then there's sort of this extra layer, this exchange of goods that we don't see. And Simmel doesn't quite anticipate that because he's writing at the turn of the 20th century. And so he hasn't quite, almost 100 years ago, he hasn't quite anticipated, no, just over 100 years ago. It doesn't matter. But he hasn't quite anticipated that unseen algorithm, unseen actor, and the actual profit that emerges from that. So just thinking with that. Okay, so further on though, as Simmel's writing about forms of exchange, this is very interesting. He says more. If, however, even the highest pitch of desire were generated wholly from within, we still would not confer value on the object which satisfies if the object were available to us in unlimited abundance. The important thing in that case would be the total enjoyment, the existence of which guarantees to us the satisfaction of our wishes, but not that particular quantum which we actually take possession of, since this could be replaced quite as easily by another. Even that totality would acquire some sense of value only by virtue of the thought of its possible shortage. Our consciousness would, in this case, be filled simply with the rhythm of subjective desires and satisfactions, without attaching any attention to the mediating object. Neither need nor enjoyment contains in itself value or economic process. These are actualized simultaneously through the exchange between two subjects, each of whom requires some self-denial by the other as a condition of feeling satisfied, or through the counterpart of this process in the solipsistic economy. Through exchange, economic process and economic values emerge simultaneously because exchange is what sustains or produces the distance between subject and object, which transmutes the subjective state of feeling into objective valuation. So that has some serious implications, right, for our 2024 YouTube era. What does Simmel, the canceled sociologist, say about YouTube? It's almost worth reading again. Our consciousness would, in this case, be filled simply with the rhythm of subjective desires and satisfaction without attaching any attention to the mediating object. Sometimes you got to feel that way, right? About you too. Neither need nor enjoyment contains in itself value or economic process, and yet we know that our clicks are profit, and we know that economic process is happening. Yeah, I don't have the answer here, but when we have this kind of abundance and it doesn't actually cost us dollars and cents, what does it do to our relations between each other? What does it mean for even the principle of exchange? Maybe this isn't as mind-blowing as I've made it out to be, but when I read this and I think about YouTube, I think, no wonder we have a meaning crisis. Simmel says that we have to have something to latch onto here, and if it's so abundant, then maybe there's nothing for us to latch onto. So what's different about this little corner of the internet where people find meaning? How do we respond to Simmel's theory of exchange when we read it in light of our current constant streaming era? Okay, let me know what you think.